Obviously, welcome. Happy New Year. I hope you all had a good break, had a chance to have a bit of relax and restore your batteries for what I'm sure is going to be yet another challenging year for social care. We'll try and keep away from VCOD, but I'm sure that that is uppermost in many people's minds. It affects staff. We are looking to lose staff. We don't want to lose them, but there are those people who won't take the vaccine. We're getting a lot of people adding their names and details to WhatsApp groups. So if you want to join the WhatsApp groups, please let us have your mobile number and the areas you work in, and Dudley will organise that. Been asked to just note the point that if a local authority or yourselves have provided bonuses, financial bonuses for staff, this can affect their benefits payments, and you may need to get advice on that. We're aware that local authorities are passing on funding, but some have been better than others, excuse me, in passing that on. So again, we're interested on a national level through the Care Association Alliance to learn more of any issues with local authority payment problems, and also fees. We're getting lots of queries at the moment about fees being raised for the next financial year. Again, that's an interesting topic. If you can let us have any details confidentially, then we'd be very happy to look at those. Also, talking to local authorities, a couple of them have said that they send stuff out to providers but don't hear anything back. We're in the same boat. We all use mail systems, bulk mailers, and a lot of those bulk mailers go into people's spam boxes or junk mail. Please check those regularly, because you may find there's something from either us, which is very important, or a local authority. I would guess you all know that PPE, free PPE, is being carried on until 2023. That's the plan. It may change. And also we've had queries about see-through masks. Dudley has been demonstrating and modelling, at least on one occasion, a see-through mask. These should be available relatively shortly. And that actually leads to a point that Dudley reminded me of earlier today, and that's about services for deaf people. And that's something that we will return to, and Dudley will go into a bit more detail. Apart from recruitment and retention today, which is the key subject, we'll also be talking about funding for digitisation, and like it or lump it, you're going to have to do that as a social care provider. Data is vital. I've been notified last evening that there will be further detailed updates to guidance and isolation. Depending on the sector, they will be coming out week commencing 17th or the 24th of January. As soon as I have them, I will put them on the website and you'll be notified. There's a couple of other things. We've added some training updates to the website from Social Works, and that links into workforce development funding, which hopefully you're accessing. And also there's one or two updates and events around stress from Citation, but we will hear from SLAM later on today. I think that's probably enough for me at the moment. Over to you, Dudley.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this, I'd say, mid to middling sort of morning, wherever you are up and down the country. I've got a hand up with Kalani already, so I'm not sure if there's a point that she wants to make.
Sorry, I was on the phone and I want to join in on the computer and I couldn't.
Sorry, someone, I think it's your background, Kalani, I'm not sure.
No,
or someone else's background, we're not muting. No.
I was trying to compute the password.
We've lost her.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Kalani. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm on my computer. I was on my phone. It's asking for a passcode.
Okay, I'm surprised it has. It should automatically go through.
Okay,
I think,
I'll try
yeah, it is sort of asking for a code. Whilst I'm speaking, Peter's going to try and see if there's an issue, there shouldn't have to be a code. It should go in directly. Because someone else has asked me for that as well. If you're still finding that problem, please send me a message. Please send me a message again, and I'll try and get it on. Look, sorry for about everyone. If there's anyone having problems, please put it in the chat, and I will try and multitask at the same time whilst running this event. So sorry. Back to where I was starting. As there's so much that's happened, I know. Happy New Year to everyone. I know it's a bit late to be saying it, but I hope everyone. I know most of us probably would have been busy during this period, so I do hope that you're able to take a minute or two for yourself and refresh yourself and the batteries and get ready for what is going to be a very busy few months over and with health and social care. There is a lot going on, and as you can see, just by the guidance and updating alone, there's so much happening. Many of you have probably been in countless meetings about updates about PPE and testing. And also as well, we know there's other things that are coming into play, like the visa change for workers coming from abroad and so many things. Peter updates regularly on the LCaS website of all the guidance and the things that have changed. What I would say to everyone is, with so much happening, please, please, please try, and if you don't get it from the government's guidance, speak to someone or a professional, because there's a lot of things that have been passed back and forth, lots of things. Some are gossip, some are actually haven't happened yet. So before you actually part with any money or do any sort of work, please do triple check. You can triple check with either Peter or ourselves, or me, should I say, or LCaS, or you can actually speak to someone in local authority, CQC, or check up on the updates on the government's guidance and the website before you actually go and commit fully for a lot of things that are happening at the moment in the sector. So please, please, please do be mindful with all what's going on.
If I could just quickly interrupt, Dudley, if you've got an issue and you need an answer, do please let us know, because if we don't know, we'll try and find out, because we can access a lot of information through the Care Association Alliance, which is a national body that we're part of. And on the migrant worker thing, as Dudley will also mention, we've got Fragamen who have worked with Skills for Care and the government on migrant workers coming to an event in very early March.
I will post on, there are a couple of events that are happening around the migrant workers as well. And that's the last event Skills for Care did. There were over 600 people that attended. They've got 2 more events. I will post it in the chat room, in the chat box as well, that you can attend as well, just that you keep you up to speed with that. It can be costly if you speak to the wrong people. It's not for free, and do be very careful before you actually go down that road. I would suggest speaking to an expert. If we do have time, I've got a set of slides I can share. But other than that, you can contact myself or Peter, and we'll update you presently. But we will be having an event with some experts in that field, and people have actually used overseas workforce as well. Peter will also touch on things like training and making sure as well that you're up to date. I know that there are obviously inspections as well still going on, so we can't forget that with CQC. So you have to make sure, as we touched on the end of last year, that you're getting your workplace in check, your workforce, your training schedules and matrices, and all the things that you need to be done for an inspection that's coming up. Anything else, please do speak to us and we will let you know. I'm not going to keep on much because there is a lot to cover, and we've got a great person talking us about shortage of staff. As you know, I get messages on the WhatsApp groups, and I will actually post the WhatsApp number and get in the chat of people needing workers, especially in dom care. And Pete doesn't want me to mention VCOD or the mandatory vaccinations, but we've seen what the mandatory vaccinations, the effect it's had on care homes. You can imagine the effect it's going to have on the other parts of health and social care as well. So rather than wait for it to hit you, try your best to prepare where you can. So that's why we've brought in Scott who's going to be speaking shortly on regards to things and tricks that you can use. But I will leave the rest over to Peter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dudley. Without further ado, Scott, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks ever so much for kindly inviting me to speak to your members today. I think everybody acknowledges, as you guys have mentioned, that it is without a shadow of a doubt a subject that is a real hot topic right now. I think obviously recruitment and retention has been a challenge for the sector for what seems many years, but it seems to have gone from the top 5 and shot up to #1 for most providers. What I wanted to do today is share with you guys the presentation that I delivered for at the Care Show and for Caring UK. It is pretty fast paced because in the interest of time, there's a lot to get through, and recruitment and retention is a big subject in its own right. I think I've chosen to focus more on recruitment, so attracting and sourcing candidates, because most people are really struggling in this area. And I think if you've typically had all your eggs in one basket, i.e. Indeed, and finding that either very expensive or not delivering candidate volume that it once did, then I've chosen to focus on that, because retention is a big subject in its own right, around leadership, development, onboarding, etc. So it's going to be pretty quick fire, but most importantly, what I wanted to do is not just be a talking session. I wanted to talk you through some things and have some breakaway actions that you could try yourself. And obviously, if you guys get stuck, feel free to get in touch direct. So without further ado, I will launch into the presentation. I'll make this available with Peter and Dudley after the event, and obviously there'll be my details on there if anybody gets stuck and wants to ask any questions afterwards. So my name's Scott Sherriden. I'm the Managing Director and founder of Purple Tribe. We are a specialist outsourced recruitment provider. We class ourselves as a managed service provider, and we only specialise in adult social care. We probably work around about 80% of our clients, 75%, 80% of our clients are domiciliary home care providers. The other are residential and supported living services. What I wanted to go with you and show you is the presentation I deliver is about recruitment and retention, getting it right post-COVID, how you address that. And I just thought to lighten the mood a little bit. You'll see I've got a white beard, and before anybody starts firing some questions, no, I'm not a long-distance relative of Captain Birdseye. It's just an aging thing. I think comes with the stress of being in the sector. And for you guys today, the goals I've got are looking at, it's the perfect storm. Where are we now? Looking at the recruitment process. This is the key to your success and how you manage your recruitment process. A quick overview of our applicant tracking systems, your recruitment results, like who's responsible, how you manage this, and some tips and advice that you can literally take away after the session and implement immediately. So very briefly, at the start of the pandemic, there was a 15% increase on care worker job clicks. So this is data taken from Indeed and other job boards. So that was a good sign to see people wanting to come into the sector and looking at more opportunities. However, when you compared clicks and sort of searches for driving jobs, they were up by 108%, agriculture 107%, loading and stocking, good old Amazon, 87%. So what seemed like a bit of a boost for us, we were way behind the curve with regards to attracting candidates into the sector and looking for roles in that sort of start of the pandemic. Where you look at where we are now, we've jumped from 3 million people claiming universal credit to 5.9 million people. So it's literally doubled. We've gone from 300,000 open vacancies to over 1 million and growing. We're estimated that 1.4 million people have left the UK in the last 12 months, of which 700,000 of those are actually from London, which is nearly 8.5% of your population and workforce. Obviously, the big problem there is people are not coming in as well. So again, we've got people going out, not enough people coming in. Static fees by councils and providers, making it difficult to compete on a salary basis. Amazon offering 30% higher wages. Enforced vaccinations in care homes. Obviously, we know what's coming downstream in April for everybody else. low application numbers, but yet still we had 1.68 million people unemployed. Indeed, a lot of people with all their eggs in one basket. They're originally probably accused of being quite expensive and delivering poor volume, but poor quality, most people seem to believe. Now, for a lot of people, it doesn't seem to be delivering enough quality or volume at all. When we look at all that in its entirety, those factors have all come together to create the perfect storm. So you've had the Brexit impact now starting to pull through. Skilled labour problems, you can't get into the country, you've got a certain wage, certain skill set, and there's been people lobbying for this. COVID, which is unprecedented, nobody's ever seen like this in anybody's lifetime. The vaccination challenge, uncertainty, and I think a lot of people have felt while they're being furloughed, it's better to stick with where they are than jump and risk another furlough or close down, and therefore you're left without furlough money or without experience. So that uncertainty or security of a job all comes together just to create that perfect storm environment where nobody could have ever predicted where we are in this situation, but albeit it seems to be that I can assure you it's not all doom and gloom. So I think for most providers that have had their, been in the Indeed camp in particular, it's felt a little bit like this. We've come to the end of the pier with regards to what now. Job boards are expensive. Where do I find candidates? We'll have people that will have tried Neil Eastwood's refer a friend at. Well, that is not the panacea. You can only ask people so many times, who do they know, who could they recommend? And it's left people feeling really stranded. Care packages are being handed back. Waiting list across councils are quite significant. And we've seen people coming to us that have gone from delivering 2,000 hours a week of care, dropping down to 1,500 hours a week in care. So because they're losing staff quicker than they can recruit. The key to recruitment across the board is and always been, when we set up in 2015, everybody was saying we're not paying enough money, people aren't interested in a career in care, the sector's got a poor image, people are only applying for jobs to keep the benefits. These typically tend to be the things or the assumptions, I would say, that people tell themselves, and it's like anything. What you sort of perceive can become your own reality, when in literally 90% of the cases that organisations that we speak to on a deeper dive into how they manage their recruitment, what they're doing day to day, it's the process that it breaks down and their inability to drive recruitment on a daily basis at the level and intensity that we would as a professional recruitment company. I've never found a company yet, by the way, that's knowingly sort of not doing the right things with intent, but recruitment is a skill, it's a profession, it's a skill in its own right. It's not like HR, it's much more akin to sales, and the market is changing, the landscape is changing. So when I look at process, what is important about that, and the metrics I'm just going to give you now are the exact same metrics we use for our outsourced clients. And there's a case study you'll be able to download for Curacare, privately owned domiciliary care business in Twickenham. And you can see how by outsourcing the recruitment, we've grown their revenue by 30% over the last 12 months, increased the headcount by 29%. And this is in so-called difficult, hard to recruit conditions, probably the toughest it's ever been. So we've been able to achieve those results, not by shipping people from abroad or getting people to come down from the north into Twickenham. We're still advertising in Twickenham and East Sheen. It's just the approach that we use and the effort and the drive that we employ. But you would expect that because we're a professional recruitment company at the end of the day. We're not a care provider. So speed of contact. Everybody that applies to your organisation needs to be contacted, I would say, same day without a doubt. Worst case scenario, the following day, 48 hours. We estimate that every 24 hours that you leave it, you reduce your chance of finding candidates by at least 55 to 60%.
Scott, sorry to just interrupt quickly. There's a bit of background noise. I'm not sure if it's coming from yourself or there is a mute, and people can mute so that we can hear Scott clearly. There's just a little bit of background noise, so I'm not sure if that can happen, that would be great.
Let's see if I can do it this way.
So it may not be you. It's like someone having a conversation or something in the background. So maybe we'll try and mute everything that's going on. But you can continue. Maybe I think it's a tad lower, Scott. So maybe to speak up a bit. I'm not sure.
I'll try my best. Thanks for telling me that. It's a bit hard when you're.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But maybe speak up. I know sometimes with microphones it works. But thanks for that, Scott. I think PC, you can unmute Scott now, I think, and the rest should be fine.
Sorry, we'll crack on. So, yes, what I was going to say is interview schedule within 24 to 48 hours. That's critical. Again, interview process that we adopt, we ask all our candidates to come in for an interview with their actual DBS documents so that they scan prior to interview and then are either shredded if they're not going to pursue the candidate or are processed immediately. The interview process and the way that you set this up as well, we wouldn't ever expect anybody to live an interview in less than 35 minutes. And we've seen people say we do it in 10, 15, 20 minutes. You're not going to make good hires with that. Perfect, probably the sweet spot is about 40 minutes for a good candidate. But again, interview process is key. Tenacity. Now, we call every single applicant that applies, unless there's something glaring. We do not judge on candidate CV. Judging somebody or just going for the low-hanging fruit, as you may think, which is, somebody that's worked for a competitor for 6 years, is not necessarily the best route to market. The tenacity of calls we adopt is 3 to 4 calls for each candidate, 2 emails and 2 text messages. That's the sort of level that we get to try and get candidates in. It's only at that point do we probably give up on a candidate. The other thing that we've got, recycling your past applicants. What a lot of people do with their recruitment campaigns is they don't recycle their past applicants. So what they might do, have X amount of people apply 1 month for their candidates. They'll hire 2 or 3 people from that wave. And then literally those candidates never get contacted again about jobs that they've applied for. And it's impossible to get around everybody, especially if you're not adopting that sort of level of approach. What we often find when we speak to providers, especially in domiciliary care environments, they may have had, say, 50 applicants over a month. They won't have really contacted everybody or tried to contact everybody. They'll have cherry-picked the ones that they'll do. They may not have called them straight away. They struggle to get enough applicants into process, and they end up only speaking to probably 10% of that applicant pool. So from that perspective, it becomes really difficult for people to hit the recruitment numbers. Again, with regard to advertising, you need to write an advertisement that applies to your values and the values of the individual that's there. Adverts that are talking about what year you were formed, when you were sort of established, all about It's a Lovely Home. The thing that's important to a candidate, they are only really interested at the interview or the advert stage, should I say, in what is important to them. Why should they pick you as an employer? Why should they come and work for your organisation? What's in it for them? Right now, the power sits with the candidates. It is a candidate-driven market. If you're of the old school mentality and think that it's, people should be bending over backwards to come and, work for me, and it's a privilege to come and work for me, you need to be thinking about it in reverse. There's a really good article on our website, a blog article written by one of the guys, John Chapman from Pinders, which is all about adopting a candidate, or should we say, care worker-centred approach to care. And now is the exact right time to be rolling out the red carpet and getting people in. But to do that, you've got to be putting your best foot forward at every stage of the process, from writing the advert, engaging with people at screening, interview processes. We've come across some real shockers of shocking feedback from candidate interviews where people have been made to wait, not offered a drink. Interviews are very much competency based, which is, tell me about a difficult time, what you did. Interviews are boring, and they're doing the same process that they've been doing forever and a day, but yet not wondering why people aren't either accepting the jobs and coming through into the process, or just not getting the results that they need. But again, it's not just one step that needs to be on point, it's every step of your process. And I think that's the key. is candidates are on a journey. And one of the biggest things that most people don't really recognise is applicants applying for multiple positions. And yet we estimate that applicants on the whole receive less than 2 to 3% of the people that, or jobs that they apply for, do they ever even get a thanks for applying for us, we'll be in touch, or your CV's under review, or a rejection email to say thanks for applying, but you're not a fit, good luck. Care providers, but not just in care, across all sectors, receive applicants into their system, people bother to apply, but yet they never bother to respond to them or acknowledge or thank them for bothering to apply to their company, which is, again, it puts off candidates, and I think it really affects how people view the process. The final part of the process is metrics and real-time data. That allows you to make, Peter mentioned data and Dudley's mentioned data. Data is king. If you don't know how many applicants you're receiving, where you're getting them from, what is the cost for the applicants, how long it takes you to get an interview booked, how long it takes you to turn an interview round, you can't improve what you don't measure. So going about your recruitment blindly on a day-to-day basis, a lot of businesses that we speak to have got an administrator or somebody that's been in with the business, or maybe be the owner, who's trying to recruit people in and amongst 101 other things on the day-to-day basis. Letting application volume build up and, ringing 50 people one after another is a tough job at the best of times. But if you're not measuring your data, not measuring your actual results, you're never going to be able to improve your process. Now, a lot of people talk about applicant tracking systems. We have a cloud-based applicant tracking system that we deploy for all our clients. And one of the key things with us is that as a professional recruitment company, we wouldn't be able to do or deliver our service and reach the sort of candidates that we reach without an applicant tracking system. If all your eggs are in basket and it's just on Indeed, then no, you don't need an applicant tracking system. So do you need one? Maybe, maybe not. It's dependent on who you are as a service, what you're trying to deliver, and the volume. Domiciliary and sort of multi-site care providers, I'd probably say it's a must. But again, it's down to where you advertise and what you're trying to use the ATS for. Now, when it comes to managing your recruitment, I think there's a very big difference with regards to what we would see as how you manage your recruitment and what needs to be managed on a day-to-day basis. So the recruitment manager should be responsible for the strategy, have proven experience, be tech savvy, so understand job boards, Indeed, pay-per-click, Facebook, Google, etc. Have the ability and the phone skills to screen candidates and drive that on a daily basis. Have the interview skills and understand how to sort of get the best out of candidates, those that are especially shy and timid and maybe not talkative. Understand how reporting works and how that can measure your metrics. And also, more importantly, delivering results. If you're a domiciliary care business, probably the only thing between you and doubling your turnover and your profits this year is how many care workers you can attract and source and retain. If you're a residential care service or nursing home, the only way you're going to drive down your agency bill or agency costs is by filling your open vacancies with permanent members of staff. The thing is, if you're managing your recruitment internally as opposed to outsourcing it or having a provider like us do it, you still have to do the things yourself. There's not an option. There isn't a shortcut. These are the things that have to be managed on a day-to-day basis in order to ensure recruitment is effective. Having just posted your jobs on Indeed and having an administrator try and plough the way through them and just ring people and try and get some people in for interview is probably, if you're adopting that approach, well, it's probably not serving you very well right now. You probably will hear the things I've talked about before. I've tried everybody, nobody's getting back to me. People don't want to come. We've got lots of no-shows. And the thing is, you'll accept that as it being the market rather than the process that's failing. So what's working right now for us? The way that we adopt our service is we across all major job boards, paid and free, as well as Facebook pay-per-click advertising. We only use LinkedIn for what I would class as headhunting for registered managers and senior positions, if we ever get that of finance directors, deputies, etc. Indeed, as a pay-per-click, the game changer has been Google. I'm going to quickly come out of this presentation because things that have changed that I thought would be worthwhile you guys knowing is this. I'm just going to go in a live example for you. If you wanted to look for, I mentioned we've got a client in Twickenham, healthcare assistant jobs in Twickenham, on a Google search, you will now see that right at the very top is Google Jobs. Pardon? Oh, you can't see my screen. Right, just I think I've been told I can't see my screen. It's shifted. So let's see if this works. So share screen. Right, so you should be able to see my Google screen now. Is that correct? No.
Yeah, you're good there. We can see it now.
You can see it.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically on healthcare assistant jobs Twickenham, yeah, the first thing that comes to the very top for candidates now to see that didn't exist in, it only really came in around about, maybe about June, July last year. Google Jobs was never a thing. And what you'll see now, actually that's quite convenient. One of our clients' jobs is on Google Jobs. So what you'll see here now, rather than candidates being drawn into Indeed, which traditionally was always the number one, along with the paid job board routine, candidates have now been driven to Google Jobs, which takes them away from a traditional search. We can look at all 48 jobs in there. We can apply. Now, the way that what you all need to understand, and this will be a challenge for providers, is that Google Jobs is not somewhere that you can just post your job to. Google Jobs relies on search engine optimization, and it's basically scrapes jobs from other career sites. And unless you are a digital marketeer, a professional services company like ourselves, then a lot of privately owned, especially SME providers, will struggle to get their head around how to do this, because unless you've got your own career page that's optimized and you know how to manage this and then get applications back into some sort of search funnel or applicant tracking system, then you'll be missing out on large volume of traffic, because candidates now can look at healthcare assistant jobs in Twickenham, get immediate job alerts, apply via multiple sources. And so if you're not on here, they'll do it. What you'll also see as we go through this, none of the jobs that are being advertised, as you'll see, Learning for Good, JobServe, Trabajo, schools and colleges, Twickenham, etc. What you'll see is that none of these jobs are actually being advertised via the Indeed engine. So whatever you click on, it's not taking you back. And the reason for this is, Google approached Indeed, asked about the partnership. Indeed pretty much stupidly decided to reject the partnership with Google, and Google have come in over the top because it's their platform, and ultimately nobody's going to be able to outrank Google on Google. It's as simple as that. It doesn't even matter what job you now pick, cleaning jobs in Leeds, Google Jobs comes the top. Teaching jobs, teaching assistant jobs in Leeds, in Durham, Google Jobs is number one. And that's not going to change at all. Basically, Google Jobs is going to do to Indeed what Indeed did to the job board markets. The only thing that Indeed will be trying to do is get it. But the reality is, if you wanted a teaching assistant job in Durham, there's 100 jobs to apply for. Why do you need to go to Indeed? The other thing that you need to be aware of as well, if you are still committed to Indeed, and this is pretty much hot off the press, is that Indeed are now going to move towards a pay per applicant model. Now, traditionally, providers have been able to choose pay per click, models, either on a daily budget or a weekly budget, i.e. you can set how much you want to spend. We've seen costs go up from 64p per applicant across our clients to as much as £6.50 per applicant. That's peaked in August, September this year compared to August, September last year. Now, the interesting thing is, which again will cause a serious problem for providers, and unfortunately will suit those with the deepest pockets. So if you're a real SME or a growing business, it will become quite a painful option, is if you're wanting to put a price on an applicant, how many applicants do you need in order to fill your jobs? The problem that you get in a care setting is that, in our experience, it could be a barmaid, it could be someone that's unemployed, it could be someone from Tesco's, it could be a window cleaner, it could be an experienced carer that's applying for your job. Until you, as I said, until you get through all your applicants and sort of the wheat from the chaff, or the ones that are serious versus the ones that are not, applicants are a difficult challenge for providers, because you don't really know who is the best fit or the right person for your role, because what we're ultimately looking for are character traits, values and beliefs, and we're looking for people with empathy, emotional stability, a caring nature, have got a bit of tenacity and drive. They're all character traits that are not necessarily going to be very obvious from a CV, because a CV typically outlines someone's roles and responsibilities. You know, so having to bid, you know, person A could get a bid of £1 for an applicant on Indeed ultimately, and they get 3 applicants, 3 barmaids, and they hire all 3 because they're all a fantastic fit. Candidate Operation B or care provider B thinks, I'm going to, you know, going to really invest some money and I'm going to pay £20 an applicant. Who's to say they don't get the same 3 barmaids, but they paid £60, and if they don't manage the process correctly, they don't want to proceed with the 3 barmaids because they think they've not got any experience and may not be a good fit. So again, it's going to be a challenge for those that are just wanting to stick with Indeed. I think things like Google Jobs, Facebook digital campaigns are what we're supplying. If you are, just as a point of reference, because the WRRF funding that's going to be available, we're expecting to get the green light to go. So if you're in the London Borough of Havering, we are being brought in by the London Borough of Havering to sort of support recruitment activities for their domiciliary, residential and supported living service providers. So sort of basically, if you're in the London Borough of Havering, you'll be getting our services free of charge. Potentially you might get that in Bexley if that gets the go ahead, and we're in conversations with Bromley and do expect to speak to the others. So again, if you're in those boroughs and you want to chat to me separately, by all means have a chat. But it's really important that you understand how the digital marketing landscape is changing. And I know I'm going quite quickly, but it is a big subject. You can talk just on job boards alone, you know, for an hour. I'll wrap up with the sort of best of the final bit of the presentation. So as you can see, in our world, Google Jobs, Indeed, it's not finished, but it's not the panacea. It's not what it was 12 months ago. So for you guys, what could you walk away with today and learn from this, and what could you implement straight away? The priority is widening the talent funnel. You know, Facebook, do not be using Facebook for jobs just advertising on your own site. You know, you have, if you're going to go on Facebook, guys, you need to run digital campaigns, the ones that we run, and I can chat separately to people about them, or you need to be using the Facebook jobs channel and using a boosted option. If you don't, the only people that will see your jobs will be people that follow your page, and typically they're friends, family, and currently either current employees or past employees. The idea with pay-per-click options, it allows you to reach a wider audience. With regards to other sources, there are plenty of free sources out there like Adzuna, Zoic, but again, you probably would need an applicant tracking system to manage those. And job boards, again, the ones that we typically use and supply all our clients with as standard, we use CV Library, Read, and Total Jobs. They have sort of smaller boards that connect off the back of them, but we traditionally go out to about 15 or 20 job boards for our clients, as well as Facebook and Google Jobs and Indeed. So it's a much wider talent funnel to those providers that are just in the Indeed camp. Speed of response and interview availability. I would be saying, you know, the quickest we've actually turned around a hire in the last sort of 3 months. Was a client applicant applied direct on Facebook, had a sort of Facebook Messenger chat with the individual, seemed a great chat, took that to a phone conversation. That was at like 9:30 in the morning, spoke to the client. We found out that the candidate had got other interviews 2 or 3 days later. We got them in the same day at 4:30, and by 5:30, we'd got contracts out and issued and signed. So, you know, we've gone from application to hire and contract signed from 9 o'clock, and by 5:30 the job's done and dusted, and we're getting ready then to process our clients. We manage all the reference checks and the DBS checks on behalf of our clients. So again, making sure that process and that onboarding project is fast. Again, don't be frightened to offer or be available after 5:30 or even at weekends. I can't stress right now, it's not going to get easier with recruitment. If anything, in the next 6 months, we anticipate it's going to get tougher. And again, recruitment metrics, measure your results and look for improvements across the entire candidate journey. For those people that get the slides, you can, you know, scan that barcode. It will take you to our case studies. There are the Twickenham and East Sheen case study for domiciliary home care. Cura Care is on there. You can also download the home care case study. You'll see how we reduced Stan Walk's agency use by 79% in just 16 weeks. So there's some interesting facts there. And again, if you guys get stuck, by all means, pop to our website, purpletribe.co.uk. You can sign up to our PT Tips newsletter. We'll be doing some stuff in partnership with LCaS as well. And again, if you sign up for PT Tips, we're going to be doing some webinars that are all free of charge on best practice approach to interview techniques, best practice approach to advertising and job writing. So there'll be some stuff that we're going to be doing in the next couple of months that I think would help you guys as well. But again, if you're stuck or you just want some free advice and want to have a chat, by all means, reach out. So sorry I took a bit longer than anticipated, but hopefully that's been beneficial. And I'll again, if there's any time for any questions, I'll leave it up to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was very informative. You know, giving us options like Google and Facebook. Who would have thought Facebook would have been something that we're hanging our hat on to solve some of our retention and recruitment and concerns. I'm not sure if anyone has a question. They can raise their hand if they want directly, or they can also leave something in the chat. I've got a couple of questions very quickly for you, Scott. So if one of the first questions would be general timeframes from advertising through to someone getting employed. So can you give us sort of an idea of how long it would take? So if someone wanted to take you on board or your services, what's the process and the time frame of how long it would generally take?
The difficulty with always giving that metric is the one thing that hinders everybody is the two compliance steps, which are the DBS and the references. You know, we can get a POVA, we can obviously can get POVA, sort of adult first check done very quickly. I mean, typically for us, we average around about 3 days to get 3 to 4 days tops to get all references back, you know, 2 professional, 1 character. You always get anomalies. You get sometimes care providers will sit on references and, you know, not want to give them as willingly as they could. You know, businesses are different. And again, with the DBS process, provided candidates give you the right information and the right documentation and you get scanned and uploaded properly, you're obviously then at the mercy of the police force. Or, you know, at the end of the day, if you did one on me right now, it could probably come back in an hour because I've lived at the same house in Leeds for 22 years. But if you're sort of a migrant worker, you've come across from a different country, you've moved in a couple of different flats, you've got a lease, things like that, you cannot control that at all. I think where we've seen instances of where processes have broken down, a lot of our clients will say, oh yeah, we manage that and we do that. And when you get under the skin of it, Twickenham, Cura Care are a classic example of when we first started working with them. You know, we've had CVs ready, references ready and ready to go, and they were originally on DBS. The administrator gets distracted and forgets, so the reference roll back, but they've not initiated the DBS process. So from that perspective, it'll be a case of some of the things you're at the mercy of. But I think the one big difference with a services company like us, we have one task and one task alone, and that is to execute the recruitment process and keep the candidate engaged in the process and keep them updated if there are delays. It's really important that you actually keep talking to the candidate, because they want to know what's going off. And if you don't speak to them for 2 weeks and don't give them any information, try giving them access to your e-learning, try and get them engaged in something, get them pre-work ready. Things you can do to sort of keep that candidate, because retention and candidate drop-off generally happens because of lack of communication. And you're a care company, so you care for your service users. You've got to show the care and show the love to the person that you're going to be your care workers, because they're your most valuable asset.
Thank you. And we've got a hand raised. If it's Anora, is that, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, please, can you come in and ask your question to Scott?
Oh, hi, Scott. Hi. I manage a nursing home in Purley. I've got one question regarding overseas recruitment program. I'm not sure whether that's something that you would cover, because I need a couple of advisors on that.
I mean, Scott
broke up a bit then.
The overseas candidates. I'm not sure if you covered that. I mean, I can help you a bit, Nora, with some of the questions. So you can ask Scott, and I can also try and chime in as well.
Oh, great, Bradley. Yeah, this is my question actually. We've got the sponsorship now
yes,
from a home office, and we have already recruited 2 nurses from a different country.
Okay.
But my question is, with regards to recruiting support workers or care workers, the process is not very clear. As far as NMC is concerned, English language requirement is very, very clear in their guidelines.
Yes.
But support workers, it's not written anywhere in black and white, whether they need to have IELTS or they need to have anything else to prove their English language, proficiency. So that's the area I need some clarity on. So I don't know whether you could.
I mean, I will mention. I mean, Scott may want to. If you want to say something, I'll chime in with something afterwards.
Well, my only thoughts to that is that so CuraCare, who are the case study on our website that you can all download and access, is the interesting thing about CuraCare is they have got the sponsorship authorization too, and that's all well and good, but I would like to think that the only reason you would be wanting or requiring to do that is if you can't recruit locally. Would that be a fair assumption? Was it a last resort or is it preference? I would say if it's a last resort, then it's probably possibly only considering that because you've, like as I mentioned before, maybe come to the end of the pier about what to do about recruitment, locally, and I think CuraCare quoted me when they took into the all factors included, it was going to cost them about £5,500–6,000 all in with an offshore agency, legal fees, government fees, etc. So if you were to imagine ramping that up, I think one of the things they explained to us that would be a trade-off is the fact that that person would have to be with them or stay with them for X amount of years. But that's banking on the fact that it does all work out and everybody's happy and that person's a good worker, because if they're not when they arrive, there's no refund, there's no rebate from the agency. You've stuck with a problem and a huge cost. And also, if you're wanting to hire 3 people a month from that route, that's £18,000 a month. It's serious money. And when you look at what it's not as expensive as people think to actually do the recruitment. I mean, on average, for us to be recruiting between 3 to 6 domiciliary care workers, typically including resourcing, ATS, DVSs, reference checking, and all advertising and everything else, you're probably looking at somewhere around region about £3,000 to £3,500 a month to deliver that type of service, which for most providers is cheap. It's an additional cost, but there's always a cost somewhere down the line. The days of getting candidates for free are gone. I mean, we've just bought, just put it into perspective, and everybody's taking advantage of this. I mean, that's why I'm not a big fan of agencies at all. I think they exploit the current market. Is we've just bought, for example, we've gone from buying in blocks of 250 job board credits with total jobs to just bought 1,000. And even though I bought 1,000 in a block as opposed to 250, my costs have just doubled. They've just doubled my costs without no warning. But we have to pay it because that's kind of what it has to be part of the mix in order to be successful. So my point would be, are you recruiting and looking to recruit offshore for preference, or because you feel there's no alternative? I would say if you feel like it's no alternative, then definitely have a chat with us, because, you know, those costs are huge. And I don't know anybody that's getting, unless it's somebody getting less than 5 or 6K, then let me know. I'd love to hear that. You know, we're all about sharing information. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's where I would start is, are we doing it because you need to do it, or you feel you need to do it, or because it's a preference?
I mean, I would add in as well, and I think thanks for that, Scott. I think probably it's definitely a way of thinking about it, because recently the Home Office has given this 12-month visa application for health and social care, and they've officially now been put on the shortage list. So what you've got is a lot of people reacting to it, which is fine, but behind it, I'm not sure if I'll have a chance to sort of show some slides today. There are, as Scott says, there is a lot of costs behind it, and you can only, or maybe be able to get so many people through the door, which is fine for smaller care homes or smaller businesses. But if you think of the outlay of costs just to get the sponsorship license plus 2 or 3 through the door, is that going to work for you? Maybe across 3 to 5 years, but maybe you may struggle over the 12-month period. So yes, the key thing would be if you can find a system or a process with, like, for example, Scott has said in the UK, first and foremost, I would say let that be your first port of call, because, you know, if someone leaves tomorrow, then, you know, you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, if your care worker you've invested in leaves, then, you know, there is a bit of concern. There is also a lot of area movement to go with the sort of overseas workers at the moment. It's a very fast moving marketplace, and I think a lot of people will have to really look at why they're doing it, the reasons behind it, the costs, and all the whole process. The key thing that we're all trying to do is to have a workforce which is full, and being able to retain the workforce and recruit openly. Just as we know, the turnover now within our sector is very high. So using as many tools as possible is really key. So I would suggest, obviously, look into what's happening with the government. It's probably going to be developed fully, but by March 31st is really where they're looking at. So there's lots of seminars, briefings that are taking place. Costs are going to be changing and fluctuating. You've actually started already. So by all means, English obviously is one of the proficient things that you need. Also as well, we've got to think about mandatory vaccinations. We've also got to think about accommodation, all these sort of things that are coming. So please watch this space. I will try and with Peter update everyone as much as possible. There's a few events happening. You can send me a message afterwards and we can speak further as well. But I would also always say that with what Scott's mentioned, really take that on board. And everyone on this call, do really have a look into Purple Tribe and what they're doing. Another area that I'm heavily involved in, I look at, is obviously social media, and using that really as Scott mentioned, Facebook, and using their campaigns. People don't realize how much of a great network sort of social media can be. So please do look into it. So I hope that answers some of the questions there. I'm not sure if anyone wants to raise anything else, but thanks for that.
All right. Thanks, Bradley.
If I could just add a couple of points.
Sorry, the two events that you were talking about, Dudley, they are fully booked. So
yeah,
they are fully
which is fine. As Peter's mentioned, we're actually running an event in March, and we've got a specialist
in March.
But also as well, there will be probably lots of events happening. So when you can, try and jump on them just to get an idea. As I said, you can contact me directly. I am have some interest in this marketplace, and I'm trying to get something so that people are not confused, which is happening at the moment. So Peter, so
thank you.
Okay. Two things swiftly. Anura and others have asked this. I've actually just been on to Skills for Care about the loading of these events and why they are apparently full, and they're checking and they're going to come back to me. So I might not get that information by the end of the meeting, but I will post it when I get it. We've had this, excuse me, I'm not quite sure why we've had this issue before, because we can take up to 1,000 people at meetings. It's simply, you buy the license. And just coming back to Scott and to recruitment and retention, I talked to some companies about their recruitment, and they say we have no problem with recruitment, it's retention. So if they're turning staff over, they're probably not employing the right people in the first place. So their actual recruitment costs are enormous, and they need to get the process right. And also, as Scott has said, you need to give your staff a bit of love, a bit of support, some training, all those things that many social care providers think as peripheral and expensive need to be there. And we will circulate the slides. There's a lot of useful information on there, and Scott's happy to talk, himself or his people will happy to talk to you. So it is a very useful option for you, to look at. Any other points or comments, questions for Scott?
Scott, we did mention briefly about social media and Facebook. Can you just quickly give a sort of a brief understanding of that? Because probably everyone's jumping on their Facebook now to sort of like go forward. So I don't think it's as straightforward as that. So can you just give us just an overview of how and what you would suggest around using social media, and also with Purple Tribe, and how it works in your end?
Yes, I was just going to say. So I think what's probably worth pointing out is that with Facebook, we've never seen it outperform other channels with regards to candidate application volume. The encouraging thing we see from digital marketing campaigns from an attraction and quality perspective is that because there is the capacity or the option in for want of a better word, a job board environment, Indeed or Google's career site, and as you've seen with Google Jobs, I can apply for multiple positions. And anybody that's ever tried recruiting will know that when they speak to candidates, it doesn't actually. I've had one of our guys say, I think Alison, she said to someone the other day, "Hi, it's Alison ringing on behalf of Curacare." And then I've heard her say, "Curacare in Twickenham, you applied for our job this morning at 9:30. It's like 10:30. You've applied an hour ago, and you're sort of wondering who you've applied for, because they're applying for multiple positions. And that's not because they're not interested in you. It's just, even if I look at our own clients, Curacare, we've got Curran Care, we've got Care to Care, we've got Key to Care, Westwood Care, Westgate Care. They all sound the same, So when they're applying for multiple positions, I know what we believe, and I would say this is just based on experience. It's hard to sort of physically prove it. My best guess effort would be that when you apply for a job via a Facebook digital campaign, you're consciously applying to an advert that is personal to you. You have not been proactively looking for a job, i.e. we would call that a passive candidate. And to explain, probably to make it a little bit easier for people to understand, is this is what a digital campaign is I'm talking about. So the structure that we operate is that your ad strategy needs to look a little bit like this. You create what you call a branded awareness advert, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And that really is geared towards two types of people: what you call an interest-based audience, so people that are interested in the job, and then what you call a lookalike audience. So we may target different demographics. So we've got a client down in Weymouth area, and that's looking for retired or semi-retired people, whereas we might be looking for people in a certain age group, a certain location. So you can advertise on postcodes, on interests and hobbies, all sorts of stuff. So you get lookalike audiences and interest-based audiences. And then what you do is when people interact with these jobs, you can retarget. You will all have been on a website where you maybe looked at some clothes or looked at a product online on Indeed or something, on Amazon. You've seen a pair of, I don't know, a set of tools, or you've seen a pair of shoes or something, and then you open up a web browser and the next day the advert is still there. That's retargeting basically, and the ad follows you around. So awareness ads follow you around. They're meant to actually nurture leads and get people to apply. And what we find by them is that, you know, if we look at like Lodge Group in Romford, we probably are getting for their spend, we're probably spending about £400 a month on pay-per-click, but we are, you know, we probably generated about, on average, probably about between 6 and 10 applicants a month. It's been tougher over the last couple of months, especially with Christmas being involved. Sorry, 6 and 10 applicants a week. But we've hired about 3 people through that channel this month that will be going on rota, you know. And then when you add that, so there is no silver bit, there's no source, you know. If we could get all the jobs filled from Google Jobs for free, then we would. We've got no allegiance, no bias to any candidate source. And what may work very well in one area may be tweaked slightly in another area, just geographically. You know, you have to advertise differently, say in the Lake District or somewhere rural than you do in an inner city. But you retarget the ads and have lookalike audiences, and that captures people. So you don't look for adverts that are selling on salary. You're selling on a career or an opportunity in care and promoting. I think where everybody needs to be at, and the sector needs to get better at this, is promoting care as a career, not a job or a stopgap. It can be a great career, it can be a rewarding career, it can be a career that can offer progression, training, a segue into other sectors like health, etc. But we've got to stop looking at it as a job, you know, and a dead-end job where there's no prospects. But that's down to providers to grasp the nettle and drive that forward, you know. So this is what we're talking about, where your broad reach approach, interest targeting areas, optimized landing page views, creating what we would call a soft sell. These are what we call assets, speak about the benefits of working in the sector, and then what we call a CTA, call to action. You know, get in touch, talk to us, let's have a chat. And because you never know who your next best carer is, but we find that the people that engage with us on this are interested and open. There's also much lower interview invite to no-show rates in candidates from this sort of model. And the good thing is you can measure everything on a daily basis. So we typically work on £10 a day for the awareness adverts, so up to £300 a month budget on the awareness, and we have about £10 a day, £300 a month for conversion. So, but at the end of the day, it's a moving target. You might spend £300 one month, £600 another. There isn't like a set thing, but you can work within parameters based on budget, need, and growth. So I know it's a bit long-winded, but that's how Facebook works. It's not just sticking. What I'm saying, it's not just sticking a job on your Facebook feed saying, "Hey, we've got a job." You know.
Thanks for that, Scott. I think it's really been informative. I think once again we'll circulate your details, Peter will, and any other further questions during the event, you can raise it, and we'll also post, as you said, the case scenarios that we will have a link where you can show what you've done as well, which is really helpful because I think people sometimes. You listen, it's good to see it in action as well, and some of the sort of like the figures and what you've done. So thanks for that, Scott. It's really great what you've been doing.
Could I just say one last thing that would benefit everybody is that in January so far, we have had the following scenarios that the owners, directors of the businesses would have completely been blissfully unaware were happening under their nose had they not had the recruitment been managed, I would say, professionally or with structure. The challenges that we've seen so far, we've had 2 candidates ready with DBSs and references all ready to go. the manager, the registered managers just simply forgot to contact the candidate and book them onto training and get them started. So they've lost the 2 candidates, they've gone elsewhere. We've had a nurse contact us. Everybody knows how difficult nurses are. But had the nurse contact us saying, what's happening with the job? And we've had them all ready to go. A month later, the manager has not bothered to ring the nurse and get her in and to get her started. We've also had people not booked on training by providers. We've had a CEO ring us the last week from Hyde Care Group thanking us because the administrator was going to cancel 11 interviews the following week because they were busy. That was the answer. And the reality of the situation is all these candidates that would have not pulled through or been lost from the process would have taken the blame, i.e. they're not bothered, they're not interested, they're not pursuing a career in care. When really, as I go back to my original point, it's the process that has caused those candidates to fail or not pull through into the sector, not the candidates. So when you're sometimes hearing what's happened to so-and-so, what's happened to so-and-so, if somebody tells you that, it's not necessarily the situation that has gone off in what I would say. So be mindful of why people are dropping out of the process, because sometimes it's not doing it. I would say that, look, my point with the administrator that was going to cancel all 11 interviews, she wasn't doing it out of malice or to purposely jeopardise the recruitment or with the purpose of keeping more agency staff on. She just didn't understand or appreciate the pressure, how scarce candidates are, and the implications of that decision. And it took us to sort of almost force issues and say, look, you can't do that, otherwise you'll never get those 11 back. And it's those sorts of things that a lot of people think are happening in the business and just unfortunately are not. But it's not because your staff are doing it on purpose. It'll be because they're too busy. They've probably never had any training support or really understand what I would class a professional recruiter does, and what is required to be done with the level of intensity and drive each and every day. It's not something that you should be picking up and dropping, as and when you can. They're my key tips. I push the process bit more than anything because it's far more important than any of the other stuff. If you have candidates, if you don't make the most of them and the process lets you down, I would have to say you would only have yourself to blame for the result. So yeah, sorry to chuck that in, but that's just stuff that falls under the radar that people say, oh, we're already doing this, we're already doing that. And more than often than not, they think they are, but they're not. So check those things, guys. If you're the owner manager and things are not going where you want it to be, maybe check into that and maybe dig a little bit deeper. But I appreciate when you're stretched and you haven't got time, it's difficult.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. And without further ado, we'll seamlessly move on to Paul. Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Peter. Yes, hi, I'm here. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for that, for having me, Paul. Just for a quick introduction for those who are thinking about digitalization of the sector, and anyone thinks about how much spend you have within the sector, the government has looked at a process, and I'm sure Paul will share this. There is money that's getting pushed towards digitalization, and Paul is going to give you an interesting overview of how digitalization can work and get paid for it as well. So thanks, Paul. It's all yours.
Lovely. So somebody's running my slides for me. Is that Peter?
Yep.
Ah, fantastic. You're a star. Okay, so I'm going to talk about...
Have you actually, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can see them. Can everybody else?
Are they full screen?
No, they're not.
Hang on. Biffo, right.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to take sort of maximum 10 minutes, just giving an introduction to digital, but also to a role that we're trying to promote quite heavily, i.e. Digital Champions. And we do have some funding to sort of help make this work, because releasing staff to be a digital champion is not necessarily straightforward. You're it's potentially costing you, and we kind of need these roles to work to help help us help everybody embed digital. So next slide, please. Fantastic. So we do need digital champions, and it's a call to anybody who might be interested, enthused, keen to see digital embedded within your organization. It's not necessarily yourselves as registered managers. It could be someone who's in an admin capacity, maybe a clinical capacity if releasable, but has got that very definite enthusiasm for digital. So it's to help embed good understanding of digital, that enthusiasm, and to help others within your teams understand the value of digital. So why do we want to do this? There's a lot happening digitally within care homes, and here are kind of the building blocks that you might see, that you might experience in a care home or domiciliary settings. I think some in the audience might be domiciliary or supported living, and this champion role is equally as appropriate to those community services. So if you scroll back, Peter, sorry, it seems to go on an auto scroll. What we want is to see staff who are confident, able to benefit from the daily routine of digital within your operation. Your connectivity is good. You're able to use video calling for MDTs, video contact with your clinical leads, your GP leads even. That digital is embedded. You're moving towards using a digital social care record. You're communicating through NHS Mail safely through NHS Mail. That you're using eRed Bag, systems like remote monitoring, all of these really useful digital tools available to you. And you're also aware of the gateways, i.e. the IG Assurance Checklist and DSPT, and have confidence to work through those processes. So there's a lot happening now, all part of the NHS digital offer that will very definitely benefit you in a care home or community setting. Next slide, please, Peter. And if you think it's busy now, it's going to get more interesting because there's lots more resource coming through for adult social care. So the white paper was launched back in December, and that talks about another £150 million being available for digital, for social care over the next 3 years. So we've already got resources to help mobilise eRed Bag, remote monitoring, some new money around digital social care records. So if you're thinking of moving to a digital platform, now is absolutely the right time, but there's more resource coming. So what is a digital champion? What do we need? Yeah, next slide, please, Peter. Being a digital champion is not necessarily straightforward. We recognise that some training is required. So we're partnering with the Skills for Care, and they've put on a training program. Basically, it's 3 2-hour sessions. We'll probably start end of February, run through till March. And this is a pilot to try and get probably 10, 15 individuals trained as digital champions. So this is about, we're not necessarily looking for digital whiz kids, for people who are absolutely know everything about digital. They've got to have the enthusiasm to impart their knowledge on others and to be able to recognize the value of digital in the workplace. So it is very much about being an active listener, a good communicator. You will have some people within your organizations who are saying, digital's not for me. I'm of an age that I remember pre-digital, and I'm very much an analog person. Well, nobody is an analog person, and everybody in health and social care can benefit from digital. And if you're used to using a smartphone, you can use a tablet, you can use an app, then you absolutely are part of the new digital generation. So it is about helping people to understand the value of digital, and being able to impart that knowledge and enthusiasm in a sensitive way, a way that motivates others. So next slide, please, Peter. So as I say, we're after enthusiastic individuals, inspiring digital champions who can undertake some training. And this is about, what sort of skills would you need to embody as a digital champion? How could you best communicate your enthusiasm to others? How can you collaborate with your colleagues? And so, 3 2-hour sessions through February and March. We do have some funding available to cover the cost of you being able to release people to be champions. So very happy to meet those costs. And also this is about creating a network of digital champions across health and social care within South West London, accepting that some of you might be domiciliary, some of you might be from care homes. We're really, really keen to get this roll up and running. I talk about digital a lot, as do others, but what I actually want to see are people in the field, digital champions, enthusing about digital, and talking at our weekly information sharing session, being able to motivate others. So yeah, just the final slide, please, Peter, with my contact details. If you are interested, or if you've got people within your teams who are interested in being part of this champion group, just email me and I'll put you in touch with Skills for Care, and we'll get you onto this training program. There's lots happening in digital and more coming. I really don't want any of you to miss out. I want you to be able to access this funding and to help take your services through to benefiting from all of the digital possibilities available to you. So yeah, please get in touch, email me, I'll put you in touch with Skills for Care, and we'll get this moving. I do already have probably about 6-7 people who are interested. So please get in touch as soon as you can to take advantage of this really, really helpful opportunity. So I'm very happy to take questions. And just thank you for the opportunity to raise this important piece.
That's a brilliant offer. How many of you don't want to take it up?
I would add in. So go on, Paul.
I hope to be inundated. So yeah, please. This is a pilot. So they'll be learning from this. It will roll out to a wider audience. But yeah, get involved with this pilot now. It would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and if you aren't in those particular boroughs, then also get in touch, because there are similar it is able across London. So just get on with it.
Indeed.
Skills for Care are national, so they do cover other areas, but Paul's just one of the major drivers dealing in South West London. We did touch on retention. If you want to retain staff, giving them an offer of being a digital champion and get paid for doing it is another way of adding another tick on their CV, and also does help. So I would definitely turn around and really look into that as well.
Sorry, it absolutely is. And retention, yes, if you've got somebody who you want to sort of give that piece of responsibility. I saw a piece way before Christmas that a care home had adopted, as a group, had adopted digital, and they'd adopted the digital social care record. What they found was a big improvement in staff retention, because staff were not having to fill in lots of paperwork. They carried an app on a smartphone or a tablet. It was so much easier to collect the information that they previously had to collect by paper. As a consequence, they were able to spend more time face-to-face with residents and less time back office completing their records. as a direct consequence of that, they've seen a significant improvement in staff retention. So there are lots of benefits to digital, one of which may well be helping you to retain your workforce. Sorry, Dudley, I interrupted.
No. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I'm a great believer in digital systems, and I'm sure some of you may know I do lots of work with digital systems as well. But I think the reality is that the care sector probably is one of the last sectors outside in the world to adopt digitalization. And I think we all have to understand 4 out of every 5 households use smartphones. Our service users, clients are also using these sort of platforms to communicate, and families as well. So really having someone within your organization who really is up to speed with it is also helpful as well, and will attract you to get more business as well, not just retain staff.
Yeah, and I would just add to that in any of the conversations we have nationally with CQC or with the DH, data crops up in every conversation, and that is a lack of social care data and the availability of NHS data. And this is the type of opportunity that providers have asked for time and again. It comes with training, it comes with funding, and it brings you up to speed. You cannot avoid being part of the digitization process. You have to do it. Like it or lump it, it may not be regulatory, but if you're going to go through arm's length inspections with CQC or with local authorities, we now have more local authorities joining systems like PAMS, excuse me, you have to get on the case with this. And this is a first class offer, and, you know, just go for it.
I think also we often see opportunities arise at relatively short notice, and we need to pilot something, we need to sort of get a group of homes together to test something. It's sometimes difficult. If there were a digital champion in each setting, it'd be far easier to say, look, I need 6 homes to get involved in a pilot of falls acoustic monitoring. I need 10 homes to get involved in testing out the summary care record app or national records locator. I need 20 homes to sort of mobilize digital social care records as a test. These things are happening now. So actually having those contacts embedded within organizations would be incredibly useful.
Yeah, and we frequently hear that the likes of dom care and supported living are not included. They are involved in this, and please become part of that, because it's so easy to stand on the sidelines and criticize or complain, and now you have that opportunity to get in there and get in there at a pilot level and help to guide the thing, to make it work for you.
You heard it here first, everyone. If you don't take up the offer, it's going to be gone. So thanks for that, Paul. I'm sure there's some people already in the group who are really interested as well. Yeah, so we'll send you forward any details. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Paul, we'll circulate that again through the website and also through WhatsApp. And, you know, we'll make it, we'll bring it back at the next meeting as well, because it is so vitally important to people.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Nadia.
Hello.
Hello, Nadia. Hi. Sorry to be delayed.
Nadia, we haven't got long, Nadia.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. But
how much time do we have?
Let's see how it goes. We can just run on a little bit. I've put your screen up, slides up, Nadia, but if you want to focus on the core of that, and then we go from there.
Do you know how, because I was planning for 30 minutes, I just wondering how much I have to
I would say try if you can core it into 10.
10, okay.
Okay, right. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
We can share. We will share the slides as well, by the way, Nadia.
Yeah.
And then we can update as well, which I will do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Nadia Pantau, and I am from Keeping Well in South East London. And I'll just talk through our offers, new offers, and tackling January blues. Next slide, please. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So the Keeping Well in South East London is a single point of access point for support for all of our health and care staff working in South East London. And we provide a lot of resources, self-help resources, resources for teams, self-assessment tools, and all these resources are obviously available for everyone, not just in those in South East London. But for those who are in South East London, you can access now you can access rapid clinical assessments. So you can refer yourself to our service if you feel like you might need some mental health support or other support on like financial well-being or relationship problems or common mental health problems. You can refer yourself to us. It's very easy. That button on the right corner that says free psychological services, it now says refer to Keeping Well, and then from there you can just fill out a form, and then we'll contact you as soon as possible for a rapid clinical assessment, and then we can refer you on to the most the most appropriate support for you. But we will also be giving you care navigation support, and that means we will, after a discussion with you, like which support you would need, we'll call you back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks time to see how you got on and what sort of other help we can signpost you onto. And yeah, just making sure that you're taken care of and not just passed on from one service to another. Sorry, can you go to the next slide, please, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very recently on the 17th of January, that's Monday, I told you about the rapid clinical assessment, but we also now have our chat function on the site open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Thursday, and from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday. And this is from the feedback that you've given us that you definitely need time like outside the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. window to chat with us. And so yeah, just come go to our website. There's a little chat bubble on the bottom right corner of your screen. If you click on that, there will be someone behind that, friendly faces and not just bots. You can talk about whatever it is that you are having some issues with, or if you want to help out maybe your colleague is struggling, you can talk about well-being stuff on there. How much time do I have left?
Oh, keep going.
Keep going. Okay.
I mean, Nadia, if you want to get to the major slides, we can always add in there. So I know some of the services are there. I have some involvement in it, but we can move to the most relevant slides you think are important, where you can share the information and their contacting and how they can keep in touch. Those are the major things that would be really helpful.
Right. Okay. Well, it'll be on our last slide. We have all the URLs, the emails, the telephone numbers. So it's very easy to contact us. You can email. There's a request a call back button in our portal as well, and we'll call you probably the same day or the next day, depending on your preference. And we have a community forum if you want to discuss some issues there, or just find like-minded people who are struggling with the same things, share recipes, share exercise tips. I recently posted on our community forum that I need help with financial well-being because January payday feels so far away from December payday. So I know that a lot of people struggle with that. But also
go on, Nadia.
Yeah, I was going to talk about January blues in this meeting, but and introduce a really useful tool for teams to kind of check in with each other and make sure that we're not kind of breaking down like a car without an MOT. But yeah, if you circulate the slides, you can have a feel of what the tool is like, and you can access it on our portal under resources for teams.
So Peter, if you can go to the last slide for the contact details. I mean, I've put the actual link in the website for Keeping Well. I'll round off here, Nadia. Look, Keeping Well is a fantastic project, and not because I'm involved with it, but it's really deals a lot with not just the mental stresses that we deal with, but the everyday stresses that we have that keep us well. This is unique and probably the most forward-thinking portal in the country, and it helps give various ways of help around it. And the reason why I think it is ultimately important because the pandemic has brought about a lot of concerns, issues for those in the workplace. We're talking about retention and recruitment. If we want to retain staff, we have to make sure we're looking at things such as burnout, being overwhelmed, and finding ways where people can come together, support each other is really key. This portal is something that's been doing that, but it doesn't just incorporate those from the NHS, but also social care. So all these things are really relevant and important. Look out for lots of things that are coming. There's going to be lots of interesting events that are taking place. But the most important thing is that you can get in contact and someone will be at the other end of the line or the chat room, and then you can share information and they will help you. It's confidential and doesn't go any further. And it's a starting point, it's a chat. And if you need any further support, they can direct you or support you directly in regards to that. So please do look at that. Also as well, there is Keeping Well as well in other areas as well. But this does help anyone generally just have a look at what we're doing as well. And I think those are one of the things to look at. Go on, Nadia.
If you don't work in Southeast London or you don't live in Southeast London, you can still talk to us, and we have connections with all the other wellbeing hubs. So we will definitely point you in the right direction.
Okay. And just thank you, Nadia. One thing I would say about Keeping Well, it's not just for you, this is for your staff. It's a fantastic resource. And just, I know we're all short of time, but take a few minutes to go through the Keeping Well South East London website. You'll see there's a huge amount of resource on there. There's training documents, there's great tips, and it's very, very useful, not just for you, but as we say, for your staff. So please circulate the details on to your staff.
And not just because I'm one of the leads in helping out with social care around it. If you even want to play around it, it can be translated to over 50 different languages as well if you are unsure. So it's very cultural and inclusive as well for all of those in our sector. And as everyone is aware, the health and social care sector is probably, if not the most diverse sector of workforces in the country. So please do use it, if alone, for community help or any other form of support as well.
Okay. Any questions for Nadia, or any points anybody wants to raise with Nadia?
Okay, well, I think, Peter, I think we've almost come to an end of the event or our management today. Lots of people interested in the digital champions, which are putting in messages in.
Yeah.
Also as well, we have spoken about with Scott about recruitment and retention. We will be keeping you up to date with this fast moving area of the visa and applications and the costings of that via Skills for Care and ourselves as well. And you can send Peter or I a message. I was going to show a set of slides, but we've run out of time today in regards to it. So we probably may put together something impromptu as well, if need be.
Okay.
But I think there is so much that's developing. Please keep in touch. Peter is constantly updating with all the guidances, which changes probably every day whilst we're speaking. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Also as well, do look out for our next event. Peter, when is the next event happening?
The next event is on February the 2nd. In fact, we've got February the 2nd and March the 2nd, and there is a potential that we'll put a further event in during the month of March, just to cover areas that are going through. I know we're not going to dwell on VCOD, but the talk is that something like 20% of dom care staff will not be able to carry on working because they will not have had the 2 jabs. There's lots going on in the background with regard to the jabs for health and social care staff. So I think you need to keep yourselves up to date with that.
And I'm sorry, just to jump in, Peter, for those who probably have got the message, the first jab is meant to be due by the 3rd of February.
Yep.
So for all those who are not aware, you should be getting your staff, if they're going to take the double jab, to have their first jab by the 3rd of February, sort of like the sort of deadline for the first jab. So let your staff know and get in touch with Peter and I. Social care, the care homes have gone through it already. And so any experience or any information you may want, we can share as well.
Yeah. And the February meeting is actually to be about safeguarding. And I'm aware that there's been some questions about the LPS coming in, so we'll endeavour to cover that as well. And also LCaS will be there talking about the various employment situations. We've not had a chance for a training update, but I know that a number of you are working with social works and using Workforce Development Fund. If there are any points that you want to raise, then please pass them on. There's a huge amount of information and data being putting out. There's a question just popped up just to deal with this. If staff come into the sector after April the 22nd who have not had their jabs, they won't be coming into the sector.
Yeah, I think, listen, everyone, I think every day at the moment, Peter's correct. The cut-off date is the 31st of March. And from that day afterward, just like the care homes, well, it was meant to be for the care homes, there is no extensions. But there is lots that happen in between now and the March the 31st. I wouldn't rely wholly on the government changing dates, but things can change very rapidly. But at the moment where we stand is the first jab is due by the 3rd. Everyone is entitled if they want to continue in the sector or not. But the deadline is the 31st. After that day, I would say to your staff, if they're not going to stay, to potentially look for alternatives, or those especially in dom care may be able to work from home or from the office whilst others go into the field.
Yeah, and there's a reasonable chance that the exemptions process will also change by April.
Yeah.
So you've had a huge amount of information and data thrown at you today. Apologies, that's been a bit rushed, but we will put the slides up very shortly. Please do look at them. There's a lot of resource there, and come back to us with any queries. And it only covers the vaccinations, not the booster.
Yeah. So at the moment, everyone, unless your workplace stipulates it, it's being double vaccinated is what is required to work and continue in all sectors in health at the moment.
Just Dudley, as you mentioned, contracts.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're putting something in your contract of employment about jabs or boosters, don't just put it in there. Make sure that you've got that legally correct. And I would point out that an employee who is not jabbed could still take you to an employment tribunal for unfair dismissal, even though they cannot work in the sector, if you do not get the process of getting rid of them correct. So make sure that you get that right. And
you can come back to us here, Peter, as well. We'll signpost with people like Citation. We work with other partners as well in regards to that. So please, 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 as Peter's mentioned, do get it right. Give them as well advance notice as well. You can't just say on the day, oh, you haven't double jabbed, so you're fired. Please let all your staff in advance know who is going to stay and who wants to leave, and you've given them fair warning and notice. Otherwise, you can find yourself in a bit of a sticky situation.
Yeah. And there is talk at the moment, Ahmed is correct, with regard to boosters. There is talk about adding boosters to the regulations. And as you're probably aware, there has been talk about adding flu jabs to the regulations, and it goes on and on and on.
As we stand right now, it's the double vaccination. But as Peter said, whilst we come off here, anything can change, just like the testing and just like everything else. So make sure you keep up to date with all legislation. I will turn around, if PC, you want to put the actual website in there, please, please, please follow us as we update you with as much guidance as possible. And it's changing in the WhatsApp group as well.
Yeah, and that, you know, a few things have come in whilst we've been talking this morning. So we will add whatever we get, we'll add it to the website, or we circulate it through WhatsApp. If you're not getting emails from us, please let me know, or please also check your spam blockers, and we'll take it from there. And we look forward to seeing you on February the 2nd, and we will send the information out, and we'll also put it on the website.